My name is Tommy Wilkins. 18 years young, with dreams as vast as the sky, filled with the naive optimism of youth. I daydreamed of heroism, of valor on the battlefield. In my mind, I saw myself charging bravely, leading my comrades to victory. Posters promised adventure and glory, depicting soldiers as noble warriors. Like countless others, I was swept up in the fervent, patriotic tide. War seemed like a grand adventure, a chance to be part of something bigger than myself. I envisioned myself a conquering hero, medals gleaming upon my chest. I enlisted with my mates, feeling invincible. We trained hard, our spirits high, our hearts full of courage. We yearned for the thrill of battle, blind to the horrors that awaited us. The grim reality of war shattered our youthful fantasies. My letters home became less frequent, my words more somber. When I finally returned, I was forever marked by the horrors I had witnessed. My story is a reminder of the harsh realities of war and the resilience of the human spirit. Tommy's journey to the front lines was a harsh awakening. Filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension, he boarded the train with dreams of heroism and glory. He was leaving behind his home, his family, and the life he once knew. Gone were the cheering crowds and patriotic songs. As the train chugged along, taking him further from the familiar and closer to the unknown, Tommy's initial enthusiasm began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of foreboding. His training, though rigorous, couldn't prepare him for the grim reality that awaited. The drills and exercises, the marching and the discipline, all seemed like a distant memory as the landscape changed before his eyes. Rolling hills gave way to a desolate, scarred landscape. The once lush and vibrant fields were now marred by trenches and craters, a testament to the relentless destruction of war. The air grew thick with the stench of death. The once clear skies were now filled with smoke and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Tommy could feel the weight of the war pressing down on him. The closer he got to the front, the more palpable the tension. Conversations grew quieter, and the laughter that once filled the air was replaced by a heavy silence. Tommy was lost in his own thoughts, grappling with the fear of the unknown. Tommy witnessed the transformation in his comrades. The laughter died down. The bravado faded. The reality of their situation began to sink in, and the weight of what lay ahead became almost unbearable. The reality of war began to dawn on them. The stories of heroism and glory they had heard were replaced by the harsh truth of survival. They were not invincible warriors. They were vulnerable, fragile beings caught in the midst of a brutal conflict. They were not heroes in a grand adventure. They were cogs in a brutal, unforgiving machine. Each day was a struggle to stay alive, to keep moving forward despite the overwhelming odds. They were cogs in a brutal, unforgiving machine. The relentless march of war showed no mercy, and the soldiers had to adapt quickly or face the dire consequences. The faces around him, once bright with youthful enthusiasm, were now grim, etched with fear and uncertainty. The camaraderie that had once bonded them was now overshadowed by the harsh reality of their situation. The once bright eyes that had gleamed with excitement were now clouded with a haunting dread. The weight of their experiences was evident in their weary expressions, and the toll of the war was unmistakable. The closer they got to the front, the more the illusion of glory dissipated, like smoke in the wind. The harsh reality of war was inescapable, and the soldiers had to confront it head-on. The war was no longer a distant concept, a tale of heroism. It was a living, breathing monster, waiting to devour them all. The letters from home, once a source of comfort, now served as a stark reminder of what they had left behind. It was a living, breathing monster, waiting to devour them all. The front lines were a place of constant danger, where every moment was a fight for survival. Tommy had to summon every ounce of courage and resilience to face the horrors that awaited him. Tommy's life had once been filled with the serene rolling hills and peaceful pastoral scenes of the English countryside. But now, those memories were distant, replaced by the grim and unrelenting reality of the trenches. The lush greenery he had known was gone, replaced by mud, rats, and the stench of decay. The vibrant fields were now a quagmire of filth and death. The trenches were a labyrinth of death and despair for Tommy. Twisting and turning, they formed a maze that seemed to have no end, a place where his hope went to die. He felt trapped in a claustrophobic world of mud, blood, and fear. The walls of the trenches closed in, pressing down on him, suffocating him with the weight of his own mortality. The air was thick with the smell of rotting flesh and stagnant water, a constant reminder of the death that surrounded him. Rats, fattened on corpses, scurried through the trenches. To Tommy, these vermin seemed like the true victors of the war, thriving in the filth and carnage. Life in the trenches was a test of endurance for Tommy. Days blurred into nights, and nights into days, in an endless cycle of monotony and terror. Boredom was his constant companion, punctuated by moments of sheer terror. The endless waiting, the anticipation of the next attack. It was a psychological torment. The constant shelling and sniper fire kept Tommy on edge. The ground shook with the impact of artillery, the air filled with the whine of bullets. Death lurked around every corner. It was a shadow that followed him, a specter that haunted his every step. Sleep was a luxury, snatched in brief moments between patrols and shelling. Tommy learned to sleep standing up, to catch a few precious minutes of rest whenever and wherever he could. The trenches were more than just ditches dug into the earth. For Tommy, they were a fortress, a prison, a home. They were the front line of the war, the place where battles were fought and lives were lost. They were a physical manifestation of the horrors of war. Every inch of the trenches bore the scars of conflict. Every footstep echoed with the cries of the fallen. The trenches stripped away the facade of civilization, revealing the primal fear that lurked beneath the surface. In the trenches, Tommy was reduced to his most basic self, driven by the need to stay alive in a world gone mad. In this subterranean hellscape, Tommy and his comrades faced a different kind of enemy. It was not just the opposing soldiers they had to contend with, but the very environment they lived in. The mud, the rats, the constant threat of death. It was all part of the enemy they fought, an enemy that chipped away at their sanity. The unending stress, the ceaseless noise, the ever-present danger, it all took a toll on Tommy's mind. An enemy that whispered doubts and amplified fears. The isolation, the fear, the constant threat of death, it all conspired to break Tommy's spirit. An enemy that was the war itself. The trenches were a microcosm of the larger conflict, a place where the brutality and futility of war were laid bare. They were a place where Tommy's hope went to die, and where the true cost of war was paid in blood and tears.